Hi, everyone. And this week I am talking to Rie Pearson from Be Kind, No Excuses CIC. So, welcome, Rie. And yeah,
Thank
tell us a
you.
little bit about your community interest company.
Well, a community interest company, I registered in, I was just looking at that actually. It'll be it's 2.5 years now. What happened was I wrote a book,
Hmm.
pile of them on there waiting to go out, about preventing domestic abuse. My background's in policing
Hmm.
and my specialism was domestic abuse. So during the COVID lockdown, I decided that this book that had been sitting in the back of my head needed to be written because, we weren't allowed to go anywhere and I might as well do something. And I wanted something positive to come out of that time because people were really stressed out. We didn't know what businesses were happening and people were closed down. And I just thought, we'll do something positive. So I wrote the book and it's about how abuse at the beginning of relationships shows itself because there's a pattern behind abusive behavior. And if you can see the pattern, you can teach the pattern.
Hmm.
And at the time I wrote the book, I didn't actually know what a community interest company was because my background's in policing and I don't know
Uh-huh.
anything other than that, really. And don't know anything about business. But what happened when the book was published? Women started coming to me and saying, can you help me? Because I keep getting into abusive relationships, or I'm in an abusive relationship, or I'm survived an abusive relationship and I need some support. So I wrote a program, a series of workshops for survivors of abuse. But essentially, the work I want to do and the book is written for teenage girls.
Right.
So after I wrote the Find Your Voice in Relationships program, I thought, right, I'm going to really focus down and I wrote what is called the ABC program, which is self-awareness, self-belief, self-confidence, because looking at it from a strategic level, what you want is to you want abusers not to abuse,
Hmm.
bottom line. But if they do, you want your teenager to know what that looks like. And it's also incorporated in your self-awareness, your self-belief, and your self-confidence because that's who you are, isn't it?
Hmm.
And when I did that, and I think was it you? I can't remember. I was, when you first get involved in this kind of thing, I literally knew nothing.
Hmm.
I was totally green, had no clue. And somebody said to me, "Have you considered creating that as a kick?" And I had no clue what they were talking about. So I did a bit of reading and I did a bit of talking to people.
Hmm.
And so I created it as a CIC because I didn't want to have a charity. I didn't want to, for me, the whole charitable side of it is it's just too complicated for my brain to cope with. The governance of a charity and all of
Hmm.
that. And to me, a CIC just seemed like the best first step to take.
That's
And
interesting.
obviously I didn't know that the book would produce. I just wrote the book
Hmm.
and then it went on Amazon and that was it really. I didn't really think anything would happen. I didn't know what would happen. I certainly didn't know that this would happen.
That's so
So
interesting. Everyone always has their own really unique approach to startup, and some people are very organized and will spend almost years planning the exact, route that it's going to take and everything. Whereas for you, so take me back to that moment. So you wrote the book and there wasn't a business plan in mind
no,
there. It was just
nothing.
you wanted to write this book and this was your kind of your gift
Yeah.
to society moving forward.
Yes. And I wanted it. I think when I look back and reflect, I think I wanted it to be in every school on the planet.
Hmm.
Because when you look at the statistics around abuse, if you can do something in some way to reduce the statistics, then and that's what was in my head. I would like it. Now, the aim now, the goal, ultimate, is to get it on the national curriculum, but
Okay.
not just the book. The book has created the courses
Hmm.
and the ABC program. My aim is to get that on the national curriculum.
Brilliant.
That's
And
that's what I want.
have you delivered programs in schools so far? Has it
No,
been in?
I
Oh,
have delivered. I actually had done a special educational needs school, which was very interesting, and I really identified with the kids there.
mhm.
I was like, these kids are great. This is me. This is my
Uh-huh.
life. Like sort of disruptive and not able to sit down for very long.
Yeah.
Um, and I delivered it in a charity in South Tyneside, and I've also delivered it online. I've
Mhm.
delivered it a lot online to girls from all over the place.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's been tested.
Hmm.
And now the next step is to take it to be accredited. And I'm writing a train the trainers program because ultimately I want to have, because there's only me, I want to have people who know how to deliver that to teachers,
That
and
would be
then
amazing.
can t- schools can deliver it because that's where most kids are. But I
Hmm.
do work with other organisations like the dance school that I work with in Northumberland, and different charities that work with girls.
Hmm.
So my my way in is to get it tested and then have a rant with Bridget Phillipson if I ever get to meet her. The
It's
current, she's
interesting.
the education secretary.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but that was never a vision.
Hmm.
That was, I wrote a book and that was it. And then things started happening, and I wrote the Find Your Voice program because the demand was there, so I supplied it.
That's
and
awesome.
and then I was like, but I want this to be for teenagers. I don't want to be working. There are loads of brilliant organizations who work with survivors of abuse,
Hmm.
and actually there are so many organizations that work with survivors of abuse. It's quite concerning because there seems to be no joined up writing. So you've got all these little pockets of amazing work going on, but what we needed is a strategic level and coming from the government down.
Right.
And But I work at the opposite end. I work at the end before the abuse has even happened.
Hmm.
Because when you start dating somebody, like you're 15, and you start going out with somebody, I want that person to know what an abusive behavior looks like. And it's the under the radar stuff. I don't want them to ever get to the bit where they're was living in a refuge with three kids
Yeah.
and no money and being financially abused for the rest of the time that their children are in education, like, and all of that. I don't want
Hmm.
to be there. I want to be at that opposite end of the spectrum,
So
and I
with
want them to be
the
sorry.
preventative measures, I'm just thinking back to your job within the police force. Is there much out there in terms of preventative activities for this, or is it not
No,
really?
I mean, anecdotally, schools say that they deliver healthy relationships
Hmm.
stuff, but I haven't had anybody say to me, well, actually, this particular school, or I am this teacher, and I do this,
Hmm.
because the way mine's a lot a bit a deeper dive.
Hmm.
So we're talking about all the stuff at the beginning, the stuff that actually presents as caring, and I'm not sure that generally teachers are aware of that. Because I've people who've read my book, who've worked in the sector of domestic abuse for survivors of abuse, people who've worked in that sector for decades have come to me and said, when you put this bit in the book, and I'd never thought about it like that before. And I was like, well, you've been doing this for 20 years.
Wow.
And that's not a criticism.
Hmm.
It's just when you get to the end, if you think of it as on a line, beginning with prevention and then ending usually with something very terrible, but those working with survivors of abuse, because this is so serious,
Hmm.
you're not focusing on the early under the radar insidious controlling behavior at the beginning because you've gone beyond it.
Sounds really, really important. And I think preventative measures generally quite often are really hard to fund incorrectly, but are
Really
quite
hard.
hard to fund. So I'm
Yes.
wondering what your business model is here then under the kick. Is the plan to use the profits from the book, or is this totally separate to the
There are
book?
no profits from a book
Okay,
unless it gets on the national curriculum and every 14-year-old gets one.
that'll do. We'll have some
And
of
that would
that.
make me like that would be a lot of money. But the kick doesn't own the book. The book belongs to
Okay.
Rie.
Hmm.
So, and my accountant was very clear on that actually. Like,
Hmm.
no, that's not, that belongs, in it, that's a thing in its own right.
Yeah.
So the kick is I deliver ABC program. I get funding to do that because I am never going to charge parents
Hmm.
to deliver to their kids something that I believe should be on the national curriculum. So I get funding and then I will deliver it. And I that funding also pays for me to have somebody as well to support me in that delivery, because obviously when we do delivery, we'll have to have a breakout place
Hmm.
for people who are really struggling. So it's actually, you have to be really mindful about emotions and triggers and trauma.
Hmm.
So that gets funded. What I'm looking at now is training other people and then marketing it to schools.
Yeah.
So I want to get the funding. I've started getting funding in. I've literally just pressed send on another funding bid while I was waiting for you. Um,
Brilliant.
and because I don't think it should be something that we charge parents to deliver their kids.
Hmm.
So initially I started off and I did it for nothing.
Okay.
But now, and then I got told off. So I have to get funding for it and I have to get paid for it.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. And yeah, like you say, if it's possible to map that across the curriculum, that's really going to tick a lot more of the school boxes for them to be able to potentially allocate their own funds or,
Totally.
um,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's the
interesting.
idea, would that schools would buy it in.
Hmm. Excellent.
But also I would have to provide a trainer a trainer to train the teachers,
Hmm.
because it's the very early signs of it. And for me, obviously, I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of cases throughout my career. And when you're a police officer, you're dealing with 999 calls. You're not dealing with the early staff.
Hmm.
But one of the things, and if you plot my life, things happen to me that when I look at where I am now, I just think, oh wow, if that hadn't happened, and it seems to me that I have been put on a path by some other power, and that has taken me, because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been there. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been there. And it's like, it's crazy when I look at it.
Hmm.
But I think you need to be talking, and of course, teachers will be victims and possibly perpetrators as well.
Hmm.
And it's a difficult, because domestic abuse, and I was at a conference last year, and the lady who organized the conference, all through the day, we heard horrific stories. But the scariest thing I heard was, she said, the domestic abuse industry. And it is an industry.
Oh,
You
crikey.
look at it. If you think of all the money that goes around, that's swilling around for like survivors, all of these charities, all of that money, it's an industry in its own right.
That's a really, really
Because
dark thought, isn't
and
it?
also, I think the latest stat for the cost to the country annually is something like £70 billion.
Crikey.
So prevention.
Hmm.
So you have to look, if you're looking at it from a business perspective,
Hmm.
do they want to prevent it?
Oh,
Because
that's an
it's
uncomfortable one, isn't it?
that's dark, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
dark,
really.
but that's true.
And
It's
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 exactly why we
actually,
need Be Kind, No Excuses
and
CIC.
we need
So,
prevention. The reason being, and I used to, people say, you're never gonna stop this kind of behavior. I'll stop some of it. And
mhm.
my business is based on, the starfish story.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I'm going to get that starfish tattoo. So you're on a beach. I'll tell
Mhm.
this for people who are listening. There's a young woman on the beach, and the beach is covered in starfishes, and she's walking along and she's picking them up and she's throwing them back into the sea. And this old boy's behind her, and he's watching, and he comes up to her and he says, What are you doing? And she says, I'm saving the starfish. And he says, But look at them all, there's millions, you're never going to make a difference. And she picks one up and she throws it into the sea and she says, I made a difference to that one.
Mhm.
And that's what the business is based on. So,
Yeah. It's a
and I know
beautiful
I've saved
story.
more than one person now, because people come back to me and tell me so. So, you know, it's got to be done. We're never going to stop abuse 100%. That's an unrealistic goal. That's not never going to happen. But we can stop some of it by
Mhm.
target hardening, and that's a police term. Target hardening teenage girls or anybody really who so they'll know what to look for and go, hey, actually, I'm not going out with you again. Go away.
So, Ree, you've got the ear of our Changemaker community, and I'm just wondering what we can do to support you and your organisation to have this amazing impact that you're working towards. Are there things that we can be doing, things we can be sharing? Like, what can we do to support you?
There's a couple of things actually. A warm introduction to Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, would be really good. She's
Okay,
from Washington. I know her mother actually,
getting
from a
closer
long
then.
time ago. So I might just message her mother. But if anybody actually does know her, that would be really helpful. If anybody knows any head teachers of schools,
Mhm,
just to have the conversation. And I think because it's quite an emotive subject, it's quite difficult because of the subtleness of abuse at the beginning. Um, but I'm quite happy to have conversations with head teachers and show them the work that I've got and
mhm,
show them the lesson plan because it's real. You know, I've taken advice. I have other teachers who help me. Um, so it looks because obviously my background's policing. No, I am actually qualified to teach adults, so I can train my trainers, but I
mhm.
can't teach kids,
Right.
and I don't want to because that's not my skill set. I want
Mhm,
teachers who are qualified
mhm.
to teach kids.
And is this secondary school, just to clarify?
14,
Yeah,
14 year olds, whatever year. I see,
perfect.
I don't even know what year group that is. My kids are older now, so I don't care anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, hey, I hear
But
you there for
also,
sure.
it would be nice to have those conversations to see how we could progress and see how they think it could be moved forward because I have all of that information, and it is saving lives. It
Mhm.
really is.
There might be
But of
some
course,
people listening to
you
that.
can't measure prevention.
that yeah,
That's the
this is
problem.
the big chat, and that's where that's part
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the challenge around funding. There might be some people listening to this that might be interested in the Train the Trainer program as well. So we'll be sharing
Fantastic.
all of your links and all of the stuff that you've shared with us to share with everyone.
Thank you.
My last question, I guess, to you, Ree, is about your journey to being able to make this difference that you want to make. And there are going to be other people listening, and it sounds like a perfect straight line. And I wonder if there are any lessons that you've learned on the way,
Mm.
um, on your
Well,
journey.
I came from like I had no business skills at all. And the big thing for me is right, because you have to live if you're going to build a business, you have to live outside your comfort zone.
Mhm.
So you have to do something every day that makes you like, you have to be a little bit scared some of the
Yeah.
time. But one of the big things is if you if you don't know, ask ask for help. And it doesn't matter. I literally just sent a message off to somebody who I've only spoken to twice today. And it and I'm like, well, if she doesn't answer, she doesn't answer. But if I don't ask, she's
Mhm.
definitely hasn't answered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you need help, ask for help and take the training. I mean, the junction point stuff, the TED code stuff, you know, and network like mad.
Mhm. Perfect. Hey, there's some really, really good bits of advice there. And of course, junction point training is awesome. So, I'll pay you
Yeah,
later.
it is. I think your junction point training was the first that I did. That was the
Yeah.
first because, like I say, I was a blank canvas. And I am a bit addicted to training, to be honest. I like it as a
It
networking
helps.
opportunity.
It helps for sure.
Have a bit of crack.
Well, Ree, it's been absolutely lovely to speak to you. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'm just in awe of the work that you do. It's so important, what you're doing. So keep up the good fight. And yeah, thank you for speaking
Thank you
to
for
us.
your help, Kate. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for joining today's chat. If you'd like to be featured on the next series, please email hello@junctionpoint.co.uk. Speak to you soon.